Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Massive drama continues in the VCT last night. The EWC qualifiers continue to get rather spicy. Some VCT scrims getting pretty tasty as well. But the big drama again continues in the VALORANT world. The Florescent situation takes a new twist in multiple different ways. This stuff is getting out of the context of VALORANT News and into just personal drama at this point. So hopefully this is the last time we have to talk about it. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. We're going to start here with VALORANT Champions Paris. It's been confirmed the dates and the times, not the times, but you know what I'm saying. Here they are, the Champs-Elysees, and we've got, Champs group stage for Champs September 22nd is when it finishes, 12th it starts, the bracket stage after that, and then the finals weekend. So yeah, the kind of classic VALORANT tournament that takes about a month to complete. But yeah, this is how it's going to be. So obviously the 16 teams will qualify from around the world. It's a big story over the next few months as to which teams actually make that happen. But yeah, we talked about the other day, the fact that EWC might be integrated more thoroughly into the calendar in future. It would make some sense really to have EWC in August time or whatever, July, August time, and then after that of course the World Championship will conclude out the season. But speaking of the Esports World Cup, there were some big results of course yesterday. As Ethan says, your turn Piggy at Boostio, GG's MIBR 1-2-0. Now this is a pretty impressive result. Now Boostio then did indeed bounce back and get the 2-0 dub against Evil Geniuses as well. I get to play against Ethan again. God I do love a good life, he says. So these seem to be the two favourites right now. Interesting, of course, that Scuba has been, well, not interesting, it's probably expected that he's been very impressive since joining NRG, especially because Bonkar is now back as a coach over there. Of course, he worked with Scuba, worked with Verno, those guys down in the Oxygen Esports roster. And we know what happened there at NRG with the whole FNS drama and everything like that. Verno leaves, goes over to MIBR, and, well, we get a nice little tasty matchup between the pair of them, as we'll see the numbers in a second. But, yeah, as Asuna says, they also beat EG 2-0 after EG's statement yesterday and all this. So, yeah, they're trying to qualify for Riyadh, and as Asuna says, bit of a rough game for me today, but it did not matter in the end, and Potter giving her thoughts on Boostio, but unfortunately didn't quite go to plan, but who knows, maybe things will turn around. This was MIBR, though, going down 2-0 to NRG. Yeah, big result for NRG. Obviously, since the Scuba edition, they've been looking significantly better. Aspas tried his best at 51 in 33, but, pretty underwhelming series from Verno at the end of the day, certainly against his former boy in Scuba. They used to be doing dominant things on the same team. Now it's rather a different story, it seems. But, yes, they won 2-0, 13-10 on the split. That was the map that we saw Scuba pretty much dominate, and then the Icebox was 15-13 after a remarkable overtime. But it was a big clutch factor from NRG. They get over the line, and that's enough to secure them potentially to the World Cup if they can just win one more series. But that series will be against 100 Thieves. And they got the 2-0 win. Again, it wasn't clean. EG tried their best. The Icebox was another 15-13 banger to the team at the bottom of the screen. And after that, their mental was probably pretty broken. And it was a 13-5 on the Pearl. So, yeah, EU and Crow, they turned up on the final map of the series. As Asuna said, he didn't play great, but at the end of the day, didn't really matter. And that leaves things looking like this. So, that series is going to be played in about 7 hours' time. And the winner of that series qualifies for the Esports World Cup. But the loser of it drops down to this game where they will play the winner of MIBR Evil Geniuses. One would expect it to be MIBR that is a rematch here, which is going to be far from an easy win for any of the teams that loses. So it's difficult to say right now who the favourite is for this series. I would possibly lean slightly NRG, although the bookmakers seem to think that it's 100T who are the slight favourite for this one. It's very tough to call, absolutely. But the winner goes to the World Cup, in addition, of course, to Sentinels and G2. They'll be guaranteed to be there. But, yeah, the other teams had to really battle their way to make that happen. As FNS says, NRG versus 100T tomorrow, best of 5, all the marbles, Som versus Boostio, Battle of the Gladiators, because, yeah, as I say, that's what makes it even better. It is this best of 5 matchup, so you are going to get possibly, the best team wins the series. Now, in Europe, we've got a similar thing unfolding. Liquid have just won the second map of their best of 5. They went down map 1 to BBL 13-11. They've just won the Icebox 13-6 after a good attacking side. Now they're loading into the Ascent. So, yeah, Liquid, of course, were the favourites for the series and still remain that way, having now won the second map. But, yeah, again, this is the decider. Whoever wins this qualifies. We know that Foot and Carmine Core as well will play in about 2 hours' time after this series, and then we'll see the rest of it play out all from there. But the big drama that we've got to unfortunately dive into again is on this whole Florescent stuff. Now, a few days ago, You guys will have seen all the drama, the allegations that came out from this individual called Brick, but Brick didn't put them out publicly herself. They came through an individual called Kitty, or that's a name, and we'll see some more information on that individual in a second. I think, unfortunately, like every single individual, it seems, in this case is, you know, to some degree, going through some issues. And at this point, I just think we have to, you know, pass these things on to Riot and to, you know, criminal investigations and, you know, all of that type of stuff. And because it's, you know, it's moving away now really from the Valorant stuff. And like the level that this documentation, I mean, every week, every few days, there's another this massive Google Doc. Like back in the day, it used to be a twit longer people would do. You know, now people are throwing Google Docs out there. But look, the allegations came out. Flor then denied them and said, look, I'm speaking with legal counsel. And then Flor yesterday puts out a response to, you know, the allegations made last week. Now, the response is interesting. As I say, I'm not going to go through everything again. I will scroll as usual. So, you know, feel free to pause and read, or I'll obviously link everything down below if you would like. There's obviously lots of pieces to this. Flor takes some accountability for, you know, let's just say not being the best person, but you got to understand all these people involved are really young, and it does frustrate me how, like, it's even got to this point. I don't know if it says something about the state of, like, our society or, like, what's happening with young people nowadays, but, you know, these people are, like, in these cases, sometimes, like, 15, 16, 17, I don't know where the parents are in this. Yeah. It's tough to read, really. But Flor does vehemently deny the allegations from Brick that were, you know, the serious allegations that were made at the start of the statement before. So that's kind of like, in many respects, the main thing. And then we'll see what Riot or, you know, any further investigations lead to here, because, you know, as maybe we expected initially, right? Like, you know, one party says one thing, another party says a different thing. And, you know, like, there's a long response here from Flor with attachments and evidence and, you know, Flor's perspective on the situation, and also some perspectives on Carey, who's like Kitty, and the Brick character themselves. And that's where things get pretty interesting. So, you know, Flor also says that, I reiterate it for those who don't take time to read it, I'm grateful for the close people in my life reaching out to me and everything, showing me that my past behaviour was wrong in many cases, but of course denying the major accusations that would, you know, have serious criminal consequences. So that's where things get, you know, very interesting then, is then Kitty comes out with a statement, because of course Flor made some thoughts known about this Carey character, and then Carey then responds with a couple of statements. And then there was another individual called Olivia who then quote tweets this. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up, like how just chaotic this is. And as I said at the start of the video, right, like this is moving away from Valorant news. Like, this is no longer what I want to talk about. And sometimes things need to be talked about, sure. But, you know, if, you know, I'm not going to go into some of this stuff again if it just continues like this, right? Because I don't think it's fair. And I'm hoping this is a pretty decent place we can conclude discussion on this for now. Because, yeah, anyway, Olivia comes out with a couple of screenshots of Kitty with various things that she's seemingly done in recent times as well. And, you know, that's obviously makes things very interesting too, is that then you've got, you know, Carey who came out, or Kitty, whatever, who came up with the statement from Brick. And then, of course, there's questions about their characters. And so, you know, then it makes things even more challenging to compute, because you've got the discussion from Flor, the allegations from Brick, you've got Carey talking about it, and then you've got Flor saying, well, you know, those individuals aren't as well adjusted as they would like you to believe, and then you've got other individuals kind of echoing a similar thing. And, you know, there's even comments here from apparently this is Brick. So, like, just some screenshots, maybe just take as you will, I suppose. And, yeah, this is the discussion that's being had. And Olivia even says, I can't speak on the validity of those comments. I was told different things by both her and others. So, I mean, look, who knows what's going on and what's actually happening here. And then we get the conclusion that Carey deactivates the account. So, yeah, where do we go from here? I don't know. It's now with Riot and the respective authorities to deal with this and decide what they want to do about it and what the conclusion is. We know, of course, there was the drama the other day because Flor was implicated in this scandal and they didn't name Florescent in the assessment that they did at the time, but now things have taken an interesting further step. Maybe there'll be more of this, maybe there won't be, but unless there's any like major development on this front, I'm not going to talk about the 15th Google Doc of the last couple of weeks. Like, that's just where we are for now. So yes, as ever, this is Valorant esports right now, unfortunately, but thankfully we do have some actual Valorant esports to discuss and some scrims just to close out the video with. We've got Live Up 9-0 on Contra. The big interesting result probably was the Sentinels, guys, because for some reason over the last couple of days it's all of a sudden looked like 2G have actually turned a bit of a corner. Maybe this is just in scrims, of course, because sometimes in scrims teams are better than they are in reality, but yeah, definitely the case that they've turned a bit of a corner, and we've got 2G up 12-6 on Sentinels, we've got G2 up 13-4 on Furia, and then they also went on to play a little bit later on, and yeah, so again we have Sentinels down 0-4 to 2G, so pretty impressive from 2G. Obviously Sentinels getting ready for Masters Toronto, they won't care so much how their scrims are going in terms of numbers, they'll care more about improving and trying to be as good as they can be, but yeah, just comparing the results of the two top North American teams last night in their scrims, definitely one of those teams is having a slightly better time than the other. But very much interested to your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.